All right, so what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Ready or Not map analysis. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Rust Belt. Now, Rust Belt is one of those missions in Ready or Not that, to me personally, kind of hits a little close to home. If you guys did not already know, yes, I was an American-born person. However, I was raised in Mexico, so I just got to go ahead and say that some of the themes that we see in Rust Belt are unfortunately things that I've kind of been surrounded with as I've grown up. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about why Rust Belt masterfully depicts reality in Ready or Not. Alright, so the overall nature of Rust Belt as a mission sees Border Patrol, FISA, and LSPD kind of lead a joint task force where we kind of launch this operation against a smuggling route between Tijuana and Los Sueños. Now, this smuggling route is operated through the Los Locos gang, and essentially they kind of have this little compound here. This place is called the Rancho de los Sueños, which translates into the Ranch of Dreams. Now, that is something, right? Pretty ironic. However, this kind of safe house and this entire compound is used by coyotes. Now, essentially what coyotes are these guys that illegal immigrants from Mexico will pay. They'll pay this high fee to these coyotes, so that way these coyotes can smuggle these people into the United States. Now, coyotes are not a cheap thing. They are incredibly expensive, and of course, everyone knows that the journey from Mexico into the United States is incredibly dangerous. So a lot of people will pay these coyotes to smuggle them across. But going back to Rust Belt, we have this compound that the Los Locos uses to kind of smuggle people and drugs and weapons from Mexico into the United States and vice versa, right? And so Border Patrol, FISA, and LSPD gather all their intel, and it's up to LSPD to go in and infiltrate this place. However, intel suggests that there is a large tunnel network underneath this safe house, and well, we're going to have to go in, arrest the suspects, and obtain any evidence that we can find. According to a tip that was left for the LSPD, something big is going to go down later in the night. So LSPD SWAT has to kind of move quickly so that way we can apprehend suspects before this big event goes down. There's nothing to suggest what is going to go down later in the night, or in the fact that it is something big, and it is recommended that LSPD and whoever else has to go in and do their thing take action immediately, so that way we can kind of thwart this operation and stop it in its tracks. So with kind of the story set up out of the way for Rust Belt, let's go ahead and talk about the map in general. So as you guys spawn in to Rust Belt, you'll kind of find yourself right outside the Rancho de los Sueños. You have two avenues of approach here. You can either go down the main road that'll see you placed in between the barn and this little shack that is on the right, or I actually discovered this yesterday as I was playing through this map, and I love Rust Belt, by the way. This is one of my favorite maps, and I never knew that this was a thing, but you can actually take a left and kind of infiltrate to the side of the initial barn that you will find as soon as you spawn in. This place is a really good kind of spot to kind of hang out, so that way you can get eyes on the main safe house and outside, and maybe even send a team through the little barn. But I mentioned that there is a safe house here, and this is what leads to the rest of the map. So as we come up to this safe house, in one of the rooms, we are going to discover some confiscated Mexican passports. Now, just a little bit of reality here. Cartels and coyotes will do this. They will confiscate the Mexican passports of everyone who they intend to smuggle into the United States. So that way these people essentially can't leave, because, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to leave without your passport? These cartel guys, these narcos, they have your passport. They probably know your full name. They have all of your information here. You can't just leave without it. It's just another way that these organizations control these people who just, in reality, want to seek a better life. However, they just get manipulated and taken advantage of by these cartels. But once we go into the safe house, you guys will see that there's this door. Now, this ominous door, man, the soundtrack really starts to pick up here once you start to make your way towards this door. And every time I see this door leading down into the tunnels, I swear, like, I get chills going down my spine. With the soundtrack kicking in and just the ominous fact of this door here, you already know that you're in for a tough time, man. And once you breach this door and head down into the tunnels, it is a complete maze down here. You get sprawling tunnels. this poorly lit, kind of well manufactured tunnel system is just down here, and you will get suspects around every corner, hiding in nooks and crannies, just waiting for you to go down there and try to find these guys, man. When I tell you guys that I genuinely get scared going down these tunnels every single time, you know I'm not lying to you. It also doesn't help the fact that the soundtrack in this mission kind of has this little beat in the background that just really makes everything tense as I'm talking about it right now. It just makes the entire environment and your overall feeling towards this map a lot more tense just by hearing this beat in the background. But going down and clearing a lot of these different tunnels, you'll start to find that some of these places have like makeshift rooms. You know, some rooms have kids' toys. I'll bring that back up in a while, but there are also some of these ruins as well. It appears that there's this kind of like ancient ruin down underneath Los Sueños and Tijuana here, where, you know, they got these paintings on the wall and stuff. So who knows what all of that is supposed to be about. But as we continue further down into the tunnel system, we'll finally come across this cave. Now, this cave right here is where everything happens, man. It is this underground river here, and you can find this barge, and this is essentially what the cartel was using to ferry people from Mexico into the United States. There's this underground river system, and they would load everybody up, drop them off here, and then the coyotes would bring everybody up through the Rancho de los Sueños and just release them into the United States, man. And if you look off into the distance in the darkness, you can also see this ominous shape right here. It's like two eyes looking at you. They'll blink every once in a while, and like I mentioned before, sometimes I get chills down my spine just looking at this, because, you know, it's left up to your imagination as to what is actually looking at you here. Me personally, man, I think this is a cartel observer that is looking at us, just using some kind of optic device to see us through the darkness. But with that being said, once we clear out the rest of this tunnel system, that is pretty much it for Rust Belt. A really unsuspecting map as you load in. When you're playing outside, you'll encounter some of these illegal immigrants running around, and, you know, they'll be saying stuff to you like, no, please don't send me back. Like, don't send me back to Mexico, or don't arrest me, or I'm not involved. You know, they'll be giving you the regular civilian spiel, but it's really unsuspecting when you load up into the map because of the fact that you just can't see anything as you are walking up to the safe house. It's only once you breach that door that leads down into the tunnel system that stuff really starts to kind of spiral out of control here. Now, when we head back over to the station, we can go ahead and observe some of the evidence that we collected through Rust Belt as well. And some things that I do want to mention is that we have this little phone conversation where some of the cartel guys mention something about a crying child and to ignore it since kids aren't down in the tunnel system. Well, remember earlier when I mentioned some of the kids' toys in one of the rooms? I guess we can go ahead and assume that Los Locos are also trafficking children down in these tunnels as well. You know, it's this big, huge conspiracy within the story of Ready or Not that human trafficking is a big thing. And of course, we know later on in the story that once we start to get involved with the spider, a lot of child trafficking is happening as well. So it really wouldn't surprise me if the cartel was also trafficking kids, given the fact that, well, they already smuggle humans, they already smuggle drugs and weapons. What's stopping them from smuggling children as well? And the final piece of evidence that I do want to talk about here in Rust Belt is this watch list, where some of the cartel members kind of have the routines of some of the Border Patrol agents and kind of their routes, their timestamps and whatever, like their shifts. And this is also a real thing too, man. So if you guys didn't already know, yes, I am a Marine Corps veteran, and ever since I've gotten out, you know, I've kind of hopped from job to job. One of the things that many people that I know personally have told me to kind of sign up for is Border Patrol. Like I mentioned before, I was born in the United States, but I was raised in Mexico, so I speak both English and Spanish very well. And, you know, it would make perfect sense for me to want to work Border Patrol, right? But no, not really, because this thing with the watch list and observing the Border Patrol agents is a real thing in real life. You know, like sometimes the Border Patrol agents, there's a lot of corruption that goes on in Border Patrol, and that is because of bribery, of them fearing for their lives, of cartels threatening border agents. This is a real thing in real life, and I really appreciate how Ready or Not kind of handles this stuff, because, you know, as you guys can even hear in my voice, like growing up in Mexico with these narcos and these cartels running around is genuinely terrifying, man. You don't see them, you don't interact with them every day, but you always see the effects on the people, whether it's someone getting shot down the road that you knew, or it's overall how like people kind of hide and don't speak about this kind of stuff in public. You just know that it is this looming threat that is over everyone's heads. You can just feel it in the environment. You can always feel the fear whenever you are down in one of these highly controlled cartel territories, man. It's definitely the thing of nightmares. Which is why I'm just going to go ahead and say it. We're going to talk about real life here for just a quick second. I don't personally blame people for trying to get out of Mexico, man. Like, I get it. I got out of there as soon as I could, man. And, you know, I haven't gone back ever since. But the one thing that I do want to go ahead and say is that, hey, I get it, man. It's a tough situation down there. Every country has laws. Unfortunately for these people, they turn to the cartels to try to smuggle them out of the country. And in trying to leave Mexico, they are feeding this machine of human smuggling just because, you know, for them it's easier, even though paying for a coyote is a lot more expensive and it's a lot more difficult if you're deciding to go that route because, well, if you don't pay up to these cartels, they'll go after you and they will find you. But all in all, Rust Belt is one of my favorite missions in Ready or Not. As you guys heard, I'm very passionate about this map. I love the way that Ready or Not blends reality and fiction in this map. That such a simple idea like a cartel smuggling tunnel system made its way into Ready or Not and is portrayed this accurately, man. It's just definitely one of those things in this game that I really do appreciate. Rust Belt is an incredibly challenging map. It is very difficult down here in this tunnel system because of how easy it is for you to get lost and the nooks and crannies and the avenues of approach that the enemy can use against you in their favor to just kind of kill you in one shot with a shotgun, man. It has happened to me many times, and as I say this now, I still get lost every once in a while in these tunnels within Rust Belt. But guys, that is going to be it for Rust Belt. If you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about this map in Ready or Not? It is definitely up there in my top 5 for best maps in Ready or Not. Make sure you guys go ahead and smash the like button and subscribe for more Ready or Not content. And if you like the map analysis, go ahead and check out my other Ready or Not map analysis videos. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description down below. Big shout out to the channel members, man. I greatly appreciate your guys' support. You guys are the absolute GOATs. Thank you guys so much for all the supports. This has been Behind the Grind, talking about Rust Belt in Ready or Not, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!